It's my pleasure to introduce Victor Audit, and he's going to talk about night beacons for Highlines. Go ahead.
Okay, so as some of you may know, I've been working for the last year on small lamps for Highlines. At the origin of this project was Arthur Lefebvre, who taught me about the need for big Highlines project, and especially because we will see that after that the law asks for us to de-rig long Highlines during the night, which is not doable. It's too long. And it was pretty stressful for both the pilot community and the slackers to let our slackline during the night. So yes, this is what I've been working on. And so this is the first photo I wanted to show you. This is 8 lamps that was used during the Alsace record. Alsace is a northern region of France. So it was pretty much a success. It was a success in the meaning that the lamps were flashing, red flashing, and also infrared from the sunset until the sunrise for like 8 days. It was 2 months ago. It was between the castle and the forest. You will see some photos of the lamps. So I wanted to show you a video also. This is a little disclaimer. The photos you're going to see, you will see steady red lights with all of the lamps activated at the same time. But actually, this is due to the fact that those photos are long exposure photo. So in the reality of the field, it's just a red flashing light. So here we go. The context for us, exposure means fun. It means thrill. This is as most of the riggers are looking for exposure. But we must not forget that for the users of the airspace, it is an obstacle. So I wrote an obstacle for them. Them in this presentation is going to be mainly helicopter pilots, because 99% of the time the nocturnal users of the airspace are helicopter pilots. But during the day, there's also the whole community of paraglider, wingsuiter, and so on. Also, those community are getting more and more people getting into the sports. Some numbers. So in France, we have for the whole country a total every year. It's a pretty stable. A total of 17,000 hours of flight every year, and 20% of those hours are night missions, night flights. So that represents a lot of them, and we may not see that many helicopters in the sky, but there actually are a lot of flights, and also during the nights. Also found this number on the Dolomite. So I was talking about exposure. This is not a topic. It's a little bit beyond the night, but this is one of the subjects I wanted to work on also. Is to define exposure. You will see on the next slide what I'm talking about. So if I tell you that on the left side, this famous line, Vive la violence, is not exposed at all, you would tell me I'm crazy, because it's very, very exposed eye line. But for an eyeliner point of view, for pilot point of view, it's not exposed at all, because the line is like maximum 25-30 meters away from the cliff, and it's at from 2 different parts of the same cliff. Which is the case of many islands. Most islands are just into round parts of the same cliff. So this is a place where an helicopter is not going to pass through at 200 kilometers. But on the right, you will see much more exposed island, exposed to airspace, exposed to collision with an aircraft. And it typically is when you connect two different cliffs. And it's not much about the height. It's more about how many objects there's near the line. If there's no object near the line, there is a high chance that an helicopter could pass through at a high speed and cut your webbing or get stuck into it, or whatever bad could happen. So the law says most countries have looked into the law always considered only the height of the line itself. This is why I wrote at the bottom of the slide that it's not sustainable. So this is, yeah, as I said, it's beyond the night beacons. So this is work I think we need to do to really determine an exposition factor. So not the Highline way of Andy Lewis, but more like an helicopter pilot point of view. For example, in France, you have to do an obstacle authorization request. It can last between 1 and 2 months before you have an answer. And you have to do that for any line above 50 meters. So basically, all our little weekend session, we would need to be prepared like 2 months before. And it's not just not possible. So right now, what we're doing is that we are doing that for very long Highlines, and then if it's okay, the government writes a NOTAM, not to airmen. But on top of that NOTAM, which is just pure theory, we have to use something in the field so that the obstacle can be seen from a long distance. So the need during the day, we are already using flags or windsock or orange ball. It has been in use, I think, for the last maybe maximum 5 years, but I think that it's more common for the last 3 or 4 years. We also find that in France they ask only for red flags, but actually white flags are very useful too. So this is what they ask in France and Switzerland. And for the nights, well, you don't have until now we didn't had anything, or like the Swiss association had a little prototype, but for the rest of us, it was just pray for the local pilots to read your NATAM. And we already had some incident with helicopter in France, not with Highline, but with cable on the mountains. So yeah, it reminds us that even if they are professional, they can do mistakes, even if they know that there is an obstacle. So this is why I've been working on an autonomous infrared and red lamp. I used mostly French, Swiss, and American law to build them. Pretty similar. The French and Switzerland and American have a similarity, but also some difference. I will explain you why. So in France, they ask for either steady red or flashing red of different intensities. So the steady red is just not doable because it's just a continuous light and it consumes way too much electric energy. So I used flashing red lights of 32 candela. You will see mine is actually 29, so just a little bit less. I couldn't do 32, but it's okay. And in Switzerland, they need infrared. So the infrared is not necessary. It's not mandatory in France, for the simple reason that you have two different types of NVG, which stands for night vision goggles. So every pilots are flying with night vision goggles. One told me that from time to time they just get the night VG away just to see with their own eyes during the night if they have any doubt. But we're using what they call enhanced night vision goggles. Basically, it's just using the visible lights even if you don't see any, there's always a little bit. And the night vision goggles just increase that light by a lot. It can even be a problem during the full moon. It's too shiny. And in Switzerland, in America, most of them are using infrared goggles. So you may know that any object emits infrared because of its temperature. And so this is why they need actually flashing infrared lights. So the beacon I've built at both. So this is what I came up with. I call it the LIRA, which stands for, in the French, Lampe infrarouge et rouge autonome. So it's basically the same word in English. So it flashes both red and infrared every 2 seconds. This is the actual outside design I've been working on. I think that I might use the plastic enclosure at the bottom might be at the same side of the solar panel for future ones, so it doesn't get stuck into trees in case you're rigging inside the forest. So some of its specification. So my goal when I designed it was that it's simple and you forget it, and it's visible from far away. So for its autonomous, there is a solar panel. You can still charge it with USB-C. It's pretty light, actually. During the 2.7 kilometers world record, the LIRA was not affecting the flag line at all. You could not see any angle at the connection of the LIRA and the flag line. It's pretty simple, just an on-off switch. You just put it on the line. I will show you at the next slide a different way to attach it to the flag line. And basically, you just switch it on and you forget it. It's doing its own business. It flashes at the correct moment of the sunset, and it stops flashing at the sunrise, just before and after those moments. It's waterproof. It's visible from up and more to 5 kilometers away, so don't expect the same light intensity as a wind turbine. The main issue with flag line is that if you think about it, it's the first time, pretty much the first time in the world that we have an obstacle with no electricity on it and a problem of mass, meaning I cannot put a beacon of 5 kilograms on my flag line. Most of the time you have wind turbine, you have buildings, you have antenna, stuff like this, so no problem. You have plenty of electricity on that. So I needed to really optimize a lot of things, and so I really I tried to respect the law as much as I could. And for the French pilots, they are more than okay, and they are very satisfied with it. And I had very nice feedback from the Slackers also. So these are the different ways it can be attached. So on the top left, it was a previous design. I had the same light intensity inside. It's pretty much the same, just the aluminium rod you can see. So basically, you could attach it via I forgot the name of that nut. Anyway, you can see it on the bottom and right side. So you can attach it this way through the splice of a Dynama bread. Yeah, it's a girth hitch. So you can, the loop is long enough so you can girth hitch the beacon into its own loop, and you can girth hitch through the splice directly or through butterfly knots, or if you have just a polyester line, flag line, and you don't want to do multiple butterfly knots who are going to reduce the strength of the flag line, you can just turn multiple times the loop and hold it as a prusik, simply. So some other specifications. So you can see on the right, sorry, the inner design. So this is the last design I came up with. It's going to change again. This is like my 5th design. I'm going to do one with less cable because that cable management is very complicated for me. Every time it doesn't change anything for the users. Sometimes I'm just evolving the design for myself so that I'm not working that much because I work a lot just for one beacon. It's a lot of work. So, and I'm probably going to work with some industrialization process, especially for the main PCB, the main electronic board inside. So yes, it has 360 horizontal emitting range as asked by the law. It has more up and down emitting range than what the law asks. They only ask like 2 degrees up and 10 degrees down, or the opposite. I forgot, but I have much more than that, so that's good. And main thing is that they are not synchronized between them. So it acts as a very chaotic pattern, and it keep desynchronizing itself because actually, if you want multiple things to be synchronized, you have to make them communicate between them. But it's no problem for the pilot actually when you have when you want to tag an obstacle. You need a certain pattern so that you have a specific pattern for wind turbine, specific pattern for buildings. And the pilots and the French aviation department told me that a chaotic pattern would be the pattern of an island. And it's more eye-catching actually. And what's funny is that if you look long enough, you have 99% of the time it's chaotic pattern, but like less than 1%, you can have a kind of red wave going through, which is just pure luck, or sometimes just a part of 5 or 6 lumps flashing at the same time. So it's pretty funny to look at it. So this is again another photo. So as I said, you see all the lights flashing at the same time here, but it's not the case. So yeah, as I said, I was very welcomed by the pilots because I felt in their voice that they were more and more stressed and concerned about the other users than them of the airspace, especially the Highliners. They know that the community is growing very fast. There is also the paraglider community is growing. The wingsuiter community is growing also. So there is more and more possible obstacles for them. And so they were very reassured that we are now going to use LAMP for this. Because NOTAM is nice, but they fly with their own eyes on the field. So they really needed to see it. So it has been already used in 4 different projects. The world record of 2.7 kilometers. Arthur probably told you a little bit about it. An Alsace record of 900 meters, the one you saw at the beginning of the presentation. And I just sent 2 of my very early prototype beacons to the THT Turak, which is a festival, and to Tête de Chat, which was an Alpine project. They were very satisfied with the product. I had very nice also feedback. So I'm still going to evolve the product a little bit so that when I'm going to sell the product, I know that I'm selling something reliable and that works the way it should work. So a question you will probably ask me, if I'm not answering it right now, is when will it be available? So I don't really know. I have objectives, but usually I'm pretty late on those objectives. But there is 2 factors that I don't really know about, is how much time is going to take me to make them legally usable in your country. Basically, you could build like a red flashing little stuff and put it in the sky, no problem. But if it happens to have an accident, even if the beacon, they will ask you if it was legal to use them. So this is why the beacon is also very interesting, is that it would be legally usable, in the meaning that even if there is an accident, you will have done everything. You will have done everything so that so that you're not going to jail, basically, if there is an accident. The other things I cannot really predict is that I'm still working on, as I said, on industrialization. So right now I'm building those beacons from A to Z. It's totally myself, and it's okay under a certain number, like maximum 50 beacons. But if I want to build more, it's going to be very it's going to be a pain in the neck. So I'm going to work on the industrialization to go international. So basically, I think that I'm probably going to start selling them in France for October, November, December. And as soon as it's available, I think first in Switzerland and then Germany. I'm working also on Italy, Spain. Those countries are probably going to be it's probably going to be available in this country for maybe March or something. And what I'm hoping is that in the main long Highlines country, if it makes sense, it would be available for next summer, because most of the big Highlines are rigged during the summer. So this is all my goals, but I will update you on Slack chat or Slackline France or whatever. So yeah, don't worry about it. I probably do a survey also to look the quantity I would need to build. So here are my contacts. You can easily find me on Facebook. I'm very active, so no problem for that. Be a little bit patient, though. And well, thank you for listening to the presentation. This last photo is under the moon. Actually, it's a long exposure photo, so it looks like daylight. But it was actually during the night, and I believe it probably was during the nights, the sending train of three of my friends during that full moon night. So if you have any question, feel free to ask.
Well, thank you, Victor. Thank you for this presentation. Please just leave that presentation up. We probably have a couple of questions.
Okay. All right.
I saw that Haitai has a question, so why don't you start us?
Okay, there are a few questions from Isidro. How long do these devices last? I guess both in the nighttime and also longevity of their lifetime.
So how long do they last during a project, and also their lifetime in general? So they are fully autonomous, meaning that they would flash every night for as long as you are letting them on. If there is very, very dark weather, they will be able to function for at least 3 or 4 days. Very, very dark weather is like thunderstorm. But I believe that if there is a thunderstorm, you're probably going to derrick everything. And about their total lifetime, so their general reliability, it still is an electronic product. So it would be the same rules as any electronic product, like your phone or a line scale. Don't drop it on the floor too much. For now, I still don't know how much time it can last. For sure, it's going to last long, especially because it's not a device you're going to use a lot during the whole year. We're not rigging that much a long Highline. So yeah, and anyway, I will repair any beacon that would be broken, and So yeah.
Just a quick follow-up question.
Yeah.
Do the solar panels recharge the entire battery during the day usually, or does it recharge like half of it?
It recharged, so I actually have, it was just here, I believe, document. So here's was my older. So this was one of the first document I made. So this was really the first prototype, but still you have the same value here. So basically, it recharged. It was in March, so not very bright sun, like normal bright sun, not the brightest. So it charges fully in 8 hours. And if it's cloudy, about the double, so 16 hours. So basically, if it's the summer, it's going to fully recharge the battery in 1 day.
Great. I'll read a question from Liam from the chat who asked, can you expand on the Slackline specs?
Can you repeat the question?
Can you say something about the specifications of the Slackline?
The line itself or the flags?
The flag. No, I assume it's about the. Oh, go ahead, Liam.
I'm curious, like how far away. I'm guessing it's a separate line from the Highline.
Yeah.
So how far away it is from the line? If wind affects it different, if it's higher or lower, how much margins do the pilots account for? Because we have also a Highline and the flag line. So then the pilots just go like whatever 30 meters away from it, or if you can go into detail on that.
Actually, I think that they can go pretty near. When we rigged just when we just were rigging the tagline, the flag line, sorry, of the 2.7 kilometers, we had an helicopter who came very close to the anchor multiple times, and actually we knew that they were passing through because they rode the NOTAM, so they knew that we had a flag line and they wanted to see it, but they were pretty close. And I think this is a discussion we need to do with the pilots and tell them at what position the flag line is going to be. There is no obvious, just like general thumb rules, on how far your flag line must be to the eye line. The longer the eye line is, of course, the longer the distance between the flag line and the eye line must be. For the 2.7 kilometers project, it was something like 100 meters away from between them. We had pretty high tension on the flag line because actually flag line are very light and they offer pretty high resistance to the wind, so they can have a lot of side sag. Sorry. So it's interesting to put some tension on that. Actually, I think it's very dangerous to have the flag line above the eye line, because if you would happen to have any rescue from an helicopter, it would be on the top of the eye line. So having a flag line at that position would be dangerous. At the bottom of the line it would be possible, but maybe dangerous if you need a rescue under the line. So most of the time it's just on one side. Yeah, that's pretty much it, if I answered your question properly.
I believe you did. If not, Liam says yes.
Okay.
I'm going to have Tom ask the next question, but first you mentioned NOTAM a couple of times. Can you quickly say what that is and what it stands for?
Yeah, it stands for Not to Airmen. So a NOT, it's basically a little document for anybody who are going to use the airspace. For example, paraglider should read NOTAMs. Apparently, what I heard is that they are absolutely not doing it. This is why, for example, flags during the day are super important. We had many island spots above Grenoble, not exposed to helicopter pilots, but pretty exposed to paraglider, and we had really nice feedback from them when we used the flag line. So the NOTAM is basically a document that is not written by us, it's written by the proper authorities on the government of each country, and you need to fill a request. At least it works like that in France, and I believe also in Switzerland. You need to fill a request, and they will study the request. They will probably also ask the army, because the army are using the airspace a lot during the night also. And so they will write a NOTAM which explain that an obstacle is in that position, in that area, and so on.
Thank you. We'll have Tom ask the last official question, and then after that, maybe we can still have some unofficial communication. I think many people have more questions, but Tom.
And I think that on top of that, there is also something that would be super useful, and it would be like to build a map with different, like French, Swiss, German, and all the other country region, and telling you if you want to open a line in that area, you also need to contact the local paraglider club and stuff like that with the actual mail, because it's very complicated, even more for a foreigner, to know who needs to be contacted. And I remember that above Grenoble, a friend of mine contacted the whole paragliding community, and actually the more paraglider were aware of our project than the slacker themselves. So it works also a lot to warn the different air users clubs.
Well, great. Thank you, Victor, again for a great talk. Very interesting. Lots of things you said. We will continue with the next talk in about 20 minutes. So please be back for that. Feel free to take a break now. Victor, if you want to stay for a little bit to answer maybe some unofficial questions or that anybody wants to get out, then that'd be great. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, Arthur again here. I would like to add something, please, about the question that raised earlier on about the gap between the Highline and the flag line. So the feedback I have on the World Record project from the civilian aviation is that they didn't really care about the horizontal gap, the 100-meter horizontal distance. That was fine for them. But they cared a lot more about the vertical gap, the difference in height between the two lines. Because when you approach from the side, that's what matters. So the flag line was at a height where when the line was empty, it was below the line. And when someone was on the line, the flag line was above the high line. This difference was counting in maybe 10 or 20 meters, and they noticed that, and then it was problematic for them. So that's what matters, horizontal gap. So it's not really a good thing to put your flag line below or above your high line. If you can, you need to put it to the side. And it doesn't matter if it's 100 meters to the side.
And do you have any ideas how to to change the flag line while somebody's on it to make it adjust to the certain?
You could have a tension system built in, but it's from the anchor. It's quite hard to see the proper height, to see what you want to do, and so it would be a lot of work. We didn't consider doing it. But also about the how you rig it, I was pleasantly surprised because the 100-meter gap was really more than enough. We could have done less because in wind, with the tensions we had, the lines had really similar movement. So even though in the highest wind we had, the line had a 150 meter sag, the flag line also had this same side sag, and we could have done maybe 50 meter gap would have been enough, but that's not the problem. Problem is the vertical gap.
That's quite interesting, especially thinking that you probably the wind resistance should be a lot less on a flag line.
Yes, but the flag line had really not the same tension. The flag line was 1.5 kilonewtons and the Highline 7.
Yeah.
And I think you can. It depends a lot on what size flags you're using and what type of rope you're using, but you can find a tension where both lines have the same movement, or pretty much the same movement. That's it.
Yeah, I'll jump in.
I have a few questions myself too. One is, what's the cost of one of these beacons right now?
Yes, I was expecting that question. It would be 110 euros for one beacon.
That's the selling cost or the production cost?
That's the selling cost.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so with your working time in it, it's not good.
Yeah.
And would it be feasible to attach the beacons? Oh no, never mind. I'm just answering my own question to the Highline. Of course not, because you can't get the leash ring over it.
Or just a big leash ring.
Yeah, fair enough. And do you plan on having a different light patterns on the thing, or is it reasonable to just have this one light pattern and that's what you, because that's a reasonable light pattern, so you don't really need to over-engineer the thing?
Actually, I think it's reasonable. This morning I had some email exchange with the Swiss authorities, so I'm going to send them one of my beacon. So we'll see. From now on, I think it's okay to have that chaotic pattern. Maybe I will work on the second type of beacon, which is going to be better for small projects, because in both France and Switzerland, they can also ask for just 3 lights at each anchor. I think it would be simpler. It would cost less. For example, a small group of friends who are not going to spend 10, who are not going to buy 10 beacons. It would be a nice idea for a smaller Highlines, I believe, because just at the anchor, it would be nice for maybe maximum 300 meters line. So I need to see, but they request a very, very bright light at the anchor. So I might work on that. I don't know.
How bright is 30 candelas?
32. It's if you're. It very depends on how much your eyes are dilated. Yeah, dilated. I don't know how to pronounce it anyway. So if it's in the dark, you're going to see it afterward for like 10 or 20 seconds. It's very bright. Like when I was working on it to compare different lenses, I had like huge headache after working on it for 30 minutes. And as I said, it's if you wanted to compare, if you look at the sky, a clear sky, you see normally bright stars, not the darkest, but not the brightest. You put it into a red and you put it into a flash motion, and this is what you will experience if you're like at 6 kilometers away.
Cool. Yeah. I think there's ways to do autonomous synchronization where they're not connected to each other like entirely. I think if you have like an RF receiver, transmitter between each of them, you can transmit on a period, and it can like figure out what the largest peak of transmission is.
Yes, exactly.
And mimic that and then you can actually synchronize the whole thing without them all communicating to one source. They only have to communicate to their neighbor.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'm going to be like I think that I'm going to work on that if authorities are asking me that. But if they are okay with chaotic patterns, I will stay in chaotic patterns. In the meaning that it will cost less to build. It's also less material. So I'm trying also, now that I have my own company, I'm trying to respect my ecological thoughts. So the simpler the better. But if they need a synchronous pattern, yeah, of course they will communicate between
And
us.
I was looking at your design. I think like because Arthur has one with him right now, and I think like probably a better PCB design would reduce the amount of soldering you have to do by so much. There's so much soldering that you don't need to do on there.
Yeah, and I'm soldering lead on my van with a little vacuum and trying not to breathe the lead too much. So yeah, I'm going to work, actually, you saw a little Arduino on the card, and actually I'm going to go with direct full logic, so only transistor and photoresistance and resistance, and no more coding, actually just a logical PCB, and the whole PCB board is going to be built by a company, so I'm just going to plug and play it at the end. So yeah, I need to work on my welding.
There's lead-free solder that's pretty good. You just need to use a little more flux.
Yeah.
And there's actually, I've been using a super portable soldering iron. You can actually power it with a battery.
Okay.
And it works really well.
Okay, nice.
Were you interested in open sourcing the design of it at all?
I don't know. I've been asking that question also. There is two possible issues with that. The first one is that I don't know if the country wants the design to be validated, or the builder, or the one who is building it. And second thing is that this is the best opportunity for me also to work when I want, how I want, and stuff like that. So I don't know how it could be if I how can I say that? Yeah, if I give all the design to someone, because I've been working a lot on that. So I also want a certain reward for that. But probably that's in, I don't know, near or far future, if everyone is satisfied, if there is no more request for beacons, maybe I will just give the plans and just do some repairs, and that's it. So
I mean, yeah, I think as it gets more matured, you might want to, just because of the variations between countries, right? Because countries might require different things too. And then also there might be markets that you're not really interested in selling, in manufacturing for, like America or something, because it's too far, shipping is too much or something like that. So it's always an option, but I understand that, like, you probably want to keep it sustainable so that you are influenced to continue developing it, which, you know.
But I also don't want to be, I still want to do it like in a friendly and familial way, as we are in that community. So I hope it works this way.